up, guys? Welcome back, Swoosh Life Garage. I'm back here with the Prelude. Still quite a few things to do onto here before it's ready to be driven as a daily. One of the things I'm going to be working on is going to be on the interior again this time. Last time I did go ahead and fix the cluster. That is working well and everything is looking good on in there. Now I need to go ahead and fix the AC. Whenever I press the AC button, it's not coming on. A lot of times that's going to be due to the soldering pins on the board that have cracked. I'm going to show you guys that. And as you could tell, I am missing my radio here, and also missing my ashtray and cigarette lighter or a power port. First thing gotta do is take off this center console section here, this plastic panel. Let's take off the screws on the side here that are holding on the center console. There's going to be 2 screws up on top here. Of course, gotta get the screws on this other side. Pop off the trim around the shifter. Then you're going to go ahead and put the shifter into like first gear just to move it on back. And now gotta kind of pop this on up, kind of expand the bottom here, but also it's going to get caught up here. If you have an automatic, it's going to get caught up here in the front. Once you get that away, just slide it on up and get it out. You could go ahead and take off this frame for the radio. It's missing 2 screws, so it should have 4 screws, but I only have 2, 1 each on top. There's going to be a little wire harness. That's just for the light for the ashtray and for the power and ground for the cigarette lighter power outlet. Go ahead and set this to the side now. You can see the plug for the radio, and then here's the plug here for the antenna to be plugged up, and then where the harness for that cigarette lighter and the ashtray light. Going to be taking out the climate control with the vents. There's going to be 2 screws in the bottom here that you got to get, 2 Phillips, 1 on each side. And then there's going to be 1 more screw. If you go directly in the middle and just on down here behind the plug, even straight on down, you look under here and then you're going to see the screw right there. And even from the back, if you wanted to, you could go ahead and unplug the AC climate control here. After you undo those screws and undo the wire harness, you're going to come over here on the passenger side, and you see this wire here, this cable. I'm going to go ahead and unclip it from here. So basically after you unclip it, it'll come off of this little like rod there that controls the heater when to open. Should just be able to go ahead and grab it on out and pull it. If you take off these screws here, one right here, one right there, it should be able to take off the climate control. Alright. And now here's the climate control itself. We got to go ahead and take it apart a little bit further. Now got to go ahead and take off this other screw, and I think that may be it. We'll see. Got to go ahead and pull these off. They're easy, sometimes they're a little hard. You got to get something underneath them. I got a tool here to pry and get it underneath, and then they'll pry on up. There it goes. So there that one is. This other one right here, pop that on up. Take it off, and already took out that other screw there. So now should just be able to just pop these tabs on up and get the face plate off. Almost forgot, you gotta take out these little lights. You just turn them and they should pop up. Get them on out. Alright, so you're going to get the faceplate off, and that's going to be held on by these little clips here. I don't know if you can see, but I just started pulling on them a little sideways and they just all came off. None of them broke. But the other thing you got to take off is this screw right here. There it goes. Here's the casing basically. This is the control board. This is basically what the button's attached to. You press the button and then it works in that way. But you see the plug here, this is where the harness plugs into there, but there's little solder points that are cracked. Just in case, you could check all the other solder points, maybe get a magnifying glass if you really need to, or move them around a little bit. But definitely I could tell there's a couple of cracked ones on here, and they're not attached to the board or to the rest of the solder. I haven't soldered anything. I just want to go ahead and turn on the car and see if just messing with the plug will turn it on, and just see what happens. So the AC is on to make sure it's actually working. It's not going off. Yeah, AC is blowing cold. So I mean, now the cluster's working, but I swear to you, there's been at least 3 times where the AC does not come on, and it has came on after I restart the car. But I mean, right now it's working, so I am just going to go over the solder points and just make sure that they're making full contact. As you had seen, I went ahead and put some solder on these. It's very easy, but one thing I would note that if you're doing this whenever you have like the solder iron on top of here and then it gets hot, if you put too much pressure, you're going to push the pin out forward, so you might see it drop down. If that happens, you just got to try to reach in there and heat it on up and push it back on up, trying to make sure that all the pins are level, so whenever you plug the plug in here, it'll be all right, everything will be touching. That's how you fix the AC from going in and out. And as well, sometimes these pins will also mess with like the lights on the climate control, so if that happens, this is also where you're going to be looking at. So the next thing I'm going to be focusing on here is the climate control, at least the face of the climate control. And here's the dash panel here that we have. This is how it's going to look if you have a 92 to 94. Then from 95 to 96, they did an update on the climate control. You can see the paneling here has more texture to it. It's not like real flat. Here's the one from 92 to 94. You guys could see. Look at the texture in there and the panels. So the 95 to 96, I like the way that paneling looks, has a little bit more detail onto there. Hopefully you can see the difference on there. The other difference is now we have blue and red instead of like a blue and orange. Then also for the fan speed, we have little bars here, and then 95 to 96 just has like little dots on there. This I did pick up from the junkyard, and unfortunately whenever the guys take off the parts there, you know, they don't let you touch the cars depending on the junkyard. They broke these tabs here, but fortunately I think that whenever I put the screw in, it still grabbed the plastic here and keep it from moving in and out. And then there is a tiny little crack here which I want to fix before I throw everything on together. So I do want to go ahead and put on these panels here. I like the way the climate control looks a lot better than having that orange. That's really the main piece for me. Also, just this panel here will look a lot better on the dash, because the dash does have that texture on in there, and this will just help it, you know, just kind of make it more blend in a little bit better into the dash there. I'm going to go ahead and take it on apart just like the other one. There's going to be some screws here. Take off the climate control, and then as well I'm going to be checking the solder points for the climate control just like the other one. If anything, I could go ahead and just swap them on over. The only thing that changed was the outside faceplate. It's not the actual computer board for the climate control. take off the screw for that light. They left the plugs on here. I gotta make sure I get these plugs off. I get the plug off for that climate control, just so it could just slide on out there. Computer board for the climate control looks a lot better than the one that was in this car. I don't know if you guys could see the solders on those pins there. They look a lot better than the one that I had, so I'm pretty sure this one works. But there's just one pin over here that I'm kind of iffy about. So either way, I'm gonna go over them, heat them on up, and just make sure to get that solder nice and fresh on there. Another thing I need to take apart are these vents here, so I could get to the crack and fix this little crack on there. And so there's little tabs all over here. With the vents, this is just the left and right, and here we have the actual knob control and then the up and down on there, and choice to turn them off and on. Just looking at this panel, really not able to get back here. I don't want to take apart these fins for the vents just because a lot of times they're more than likely probably going to break. Idea that I got is to get some sort of like gel type of epoxy, try to force it on in there, and then after I do that, close it on up and just clean up on up the outside, and that would enable to have the epoxy on the inside there and try to hopefully keep it from cracking even further. Firstly, I do got to go ahead and clean everything on up just to make sure it's clean for the epoxy, and no dirt, no grease on there is going to prevent it there from adhering onto the plastic. Cleaned everything up and went over the solder points on the little computer board for climate control. Next thing I'm going to focus on is this crack here, right there on the panel here for the vents. But overall the panel looks pretty good other than that crack right there. First thing I'm going to do is get some masking tape, blue masking tape, and try to just line out the crack. I don't want the epoxy to go everywhere and stick onto the plastic, so I'm going to use that masking tape to go ahead and just give it a small area that we're going to work with. Just this little sliver here is going to be that crack there. So next thing I'm going to do is mix up some 2-part epoxy from JB Weld. This is the plastic weld, so going to be mixing this on up, and then with a toothpick I'm going to be trying to put that epoxy on into the crack there so we could fill that on in. It's kind of like a gel, like I was saying. Well, it is a gel for the most part, but it's a little bit runny as of right now. Of course it's going to start to harden up, so let me go ahead and get to this. And in about an hour I'm going to go ahead and take this tape off just so everything doesn't dry together. But after I take the tape off, I'm still going to let it dry for about 24 hours. It's been 24 hours. You can see where I put the epoxy on the plastic there. It's a little bit built on up there. I do have some sandpaper, some 220 grit. Going to be sanding that down very lightly. And I'm not going to sand it completely down, but just a little bit so it's not as noticeable. But after that, going to be using a maroon Scotch-Brite. Going to be sanding everything, even the vents on this front part of this panel, and we're going to be painting this. So I'm going to go ahead and get at it and just take a little bit of time on sanding. So I spent a good amount of time with the maroon Scotch-Brite and the sandpaper, sanded that on down. Looks a lot better. can't really see it. Once I paint it, it's really going to blend in. Now I did take out the little decals that were right here for the vents. It was just like a white solid one and then a white little outside circle. So after I paint it, I am going to make my own decals and just place them on in there. But everything is all scuffed up. Like I said, I spent a good amount of time. Now I need to go ahead and with some alcohol wipe everything on down, make sure I get all the little dust from out of the little crevices and everything. So I'm going to spend a good amount of time just on that itself too. Everything is wiped down, ready to be painted, and here I have the SEM color coat, and the color again, part number 15013, and it is Lando Black or Landu Black, however you say it. But I'm going to give it about 2 coats, and of course I do have to move the knobs up and down here on the vent control, and as well side to side, just to make sure I get full coverage on the paint on this panel here. So let me go ahead and get at it. Already shaked it up. Let's get it. As you guys had seen, I did use my vinyl cutter and some white vinyl, cut out a circle, full circle, and then I cut out a just the outside circle, and it looks very OEM, very stock. The original decals or little things that were in here, it's like a little plastic piece, had some glue on the back. This one is just the outer circle, and then see, kind of had like a little glue back on there, but I'm pretty sure I'm not going to have any issues with this vinyl here. Once it heats up and stuff, it really starts to stick in there, so it's going to be kind of difficult to get it out. But even most people are not going to stick their nail or anything inside that inner circle and try to take it on out there. And then of course did install the vents, made sure they're nice and clean, no dirt on in there. So next, putting my focus back onto the climate control, going to be putting this back together. But the next thing I'm going to do on here is put in some LEDs that are here. The original light bulbs that are in the climate control itself are these little bulbs. You're not able to take out the bulb from the plastic, so in order to change out LEDs, you're going to have to buy a whole little complete unit with the little plastic piece. And if you guys don't already know, the LEDs I only buy are from superbrightleds.com, and I'm not sponsored or anything by them, but I have purchased other LEDs from other companies and try to use them, and over time a lot of times they started flicker, just when the LEDs started flicker, or they just completely go out. With super bright LEDs, I have not had any issues on these. So go ahead and check out Super Bright LEDs to make sure you're spending your money with the right company. So here are some of the LEDs I bought for the climate control. I know I'm not going to use all of them, but I just wanted to make sure I have something that fits instead of having to return, buy another. So I just bought the ones that I'm going to be trying onto the climate control. Now usually if you're able to take out these bulbs from the little plastic socket, you're just going to grab a 74 bulb and just insert it on into the socket, and easily like that you make the switch to the LED. But like I said, you cannot separate these. So I purchased 2 different ones. I got some different colors here and stuff, that's why you see multiple bags. But I got a 4mm little bulb, Neo 4mm, and this is the cool white. And then the other one I have here on the package, it says T1.5 cool white. Basically it's a 74 bulb but in a socket. And so let me go ahead, just check to see if it'll even fit, and it does not fit. If you guys can't see, the socket is too big, and I think even if it did fit, you're probably going to hit that plastic right there, so this is not going to work. Next one up That's all it is right there. Little socket, little LED on there. Hopefully this one fits. Screwdriver, give it a little twist. And it's looking like that's it, honestly. It's not falling out or anything. What I'm gonna do is put in this other one, and then we got one other one right here as well. The LEDs fit on in there. I turned them. I believe they will work, but before I test it, I want to go ahead and put this climate control back together. Of course, you get this, and then you get the casing for that, and just slide it on in there. And it does have little like rails where it just slides. I almost forgot, I can't have the bulbs in there whenever putting this on in or taking it out, so I am going to have to take them back out. There it goes. Put the LEDs back in there. Put this on in, get the screw. The last thing to do is put on the faceplate, and this should just snap on in there. After you put the faceplate on there, everything kind of snaps. Just go through the buttons just to make sure that they're fully clicked on in, and just to make sure that they're fully working just like they were before. And so now the last thing gotta do as far as putting this back together is to put on the little knob. Here's the knobs. They just easily just slide on there. And then the other one, the same thing. Put it on in there. And there we go. Now as far as here on where the red and blue and the little dots from factory, there's like a clear film over it. Now of course these cars are old and stuff, you know, a lot of times this is either going to look kind of like yellowish or starting to peel off. What I did, I didn't get it on camera, but I got some 100% alcohol and a paper towel and just kept going over and over and over, and it really started to take off some of that old film and really started to make it look good. There's still a tiny bit of clear on there. Now if I wanted to, I could keep rubbing it and it'll probably come off, but as far as this section, it had came off already. You can still see a little bit on there, but it's a lot better looking than it was before. The same thing for here. Most of the clear film is on there. You can probably see where it's coming off. I just kind of rubbed it just so it has a nice color to it, and it doesn't look bad at all there. So the knobs are on there. The last thing I gotta do is put on that little metal clip that was on the back here, and this little metal clip there, and then it does have a screw on there. And I did almost forget to show you guys to put on these other little screws for the faceplate, one on each corner, one right there, and then one right there. I just got to finish tightening them on down. Well, there we have it. The clip is on there with the screw, the two screws on the corner, and then faceplate on there. Of course, we got the LEDs on there. So the last thing we got to do is test this on out, make sure the LEDs are working properly, and make sure everything is getting lit up nice and bright. I did mess around with blue LEDs. Of course, it makes it look, you know, dark blue, but the problem it has is that the red on the climate control for the heater, and as well for the defroster for the rear glass, you know, it has a different color, so the blue can't really light that section up just because it's colored, and it has a harder time. So here with the cool white, looks a lot better. This is how I'm going to be leaving it. It has like a cool kind of like baby blue tint to it. So there it is. That's how it's going to be lit up at night. This is definitely a very nice improvement to the climate control. Here I have everything put together. I did already put the climate control onto the dash panel, the vent panel here, so everything's ready to be installed. Go ahead and real quickly put that in. Climate control is installed. Of course, the other thing I did is plug in the fan control and the actual climate control there. And then of course the other thing got to do is put on the cable for the heater there. It goes in that clip and then onto the rod to where it will pull it. Whenever installing that cable, if it's going to be on the cold side, then make sure that vent is pulled all the way as close as you can, or if it's on the heater side, push that vent on out and then stretch the cable to be attached onto there. If you don't do it correctly, then it's not going to go side to side all the way to one side. See, mine goes all the way left and right. So just make sure that works as well. If not, go ahead and readjust the cable. That's going to be it for this video, guys, on fixing the climate control. Of course, we had the 95, 96 update on the panel and the climate control face itself. And then I showed you guys how to fix the actual AC and lights from coming on and off at the plug, resoldering those pins, and of course just taking everything in and out. But the next video, I'm going to be taking care of the panel down here for the radio, the ashtray, and the cigarette lighter. So make sure to catch me on that next video. Of course, if you guys have any questions on fixing the climate control, doing this little update on here, make sure to put them down in the comment section there. And of course, I'm going to have my social media and stuff in the description box. If you guys like this video, and make sure you're subscribed to the channel, because I definitely have other videos on the 4th gen Prelude. But for this video, guys, click on the other videos, because I'm going to catch you on that next one, player.